There's always a caveat given on election night. It's sometimes visible on the screen, which shows results. And those results, we tell you, are unofficial until they're certified. That certification is happening this week around Idaho. Even then, an election may not be quote unquote over, since some places will have to have a runoff. Well, because one candidate didn't get the required number of votes to win. That'd be Eagle and Mountain Home. They're going to both have mayoral runoffs on December 5th because neither candidate got the 50% they needed. But there's another spot in Idaho waiting to see if they will need to hold a redo. Jerome County found that 2 voters were issued the wrong ballots absentee. Those 2 votes could swing the result of a local school board election, which came down to a 1-vote margin. And maybe you're thinking, Jerome County, again? Didn't they have election issues last year? Well, yes, they did. But as Joe Paris explains, there's a new law to address what happened in Jerome County this year, and it's being applied for the first time.
You've heard the election's tagline, every vote counts. Well, Jerome County is seeing that firsthand. In the Valley School District, the Zone 4 trustee election finished 48-47. And while examining the election results, the Jerome County clerk found that 2 voters, a couple that lives in the same house, they were incorrectly issued an absentee ballot for trustee Zone 5, but they actually live in Zone 4. And those 2 votes could totally change the election.
Now what they're going to do is they're seeking judicial review.
Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain is working with Jerome County and the courts to utilize a law passed in 2022, the judicial review of election results. It's a law that McGrain is very familiar with.
After some elections I went through at Ada County, we actually got this law passed to allow, rather than requiring a candidate to challenge an election or a voter to contest it, this allows the clerk to actually go to the court and just, as an open book, say, here's what happened, here's what took place. Can the court look at this and determine whether this mistake would have impacted the outcome of the election?
This is also the very first time the judicial review of elections law is being used.
I was very active in getting this in place because we'd seen issues in the past where we wanted a court to look at our work and be able to review it, but there was no legal mechanism to do that other than someone contesting it. And so now this will actually be the first test of going before a judge, sharing all the information, allowing anybody who's been involved, so the candidates, any other interested party, to see what took place. And then I think likely in this case, we may be headed towards doing a new election.
So how will this all play out? McGrain says there are a lot of considerations.
That is still being figured out. I think one of the interesting things in this particular case is we do have 2 runoff elections coming up on December 5th, both in Eagle and in Mountain Home. I think there's an interest to try and align this. Now, there's a big question on whether this will go through the court proceeding fast enough to make that happen. But, with the holidays and everything else, we're trying to figure this out. I also think one of the determinations in this process is not just how close the election was or what happened during that process, but anytime you are asked to redo an election, there's no way to create the same circumstances. There's no way to get all the same voters to show up. So it's always going to be an imperfect solution to whatever came up. And I think that's one of the challenges the court will have to work out here as well.
Elections are human run, and that will leave room for human error. Catching mistakes, though, it shows an important part of the process.
I think being able to show some light on it, one of the greatest things of this review is we get to just let everybody see what's happening on the inside. And I think that's really important in terms of building trust in our elections. They are scrutinizing to such a level that they can make determinations like this. Like, of course, and I can assure you, the county wishes they'd just gotten it right the first time. I'm sure the candidates do as well. But we want to make sure that we do get it right, and so this gives a chance for them to try and make sure the record's corrected.
So this is the actual judicial review paperwork that I got this afternoon. I was just in touch with Michael Sieb, who's the deputy prosecutor for Jerome County, and he explained to me that Jerome County will simply be waiting to hear from a court to decide whether it feels it can decide on the matter simply with the information in this petition, or if a court will actually have to schedule some type of a hearing, get people together before a judge could make a decision. So, Brian, it's super interesting, and I found it very interesting for Phil McGrain, a full circle moment.
Why can't they just have those 2 people vote again?
So it's very interesting. So in the Constitution, it is guaranteed that you have a secret ballot. So if they were to remove 2 votes and then have them re-vote, you would know who they voted for in the first election. So I actually asked the Secretary of State, I said, have you ever seen that movie where, it comes down to 1 vote and there's a lost vote and one guy gets to decide the election? And he said, well, that couldn't happen in reality in Idaho because of the secret ballot. So there you go.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Mm-hmm.